millions of data points generated after continuous evaluation of the embryo of both morphology and speed of development were entered into machine learning systems. It's gonna tell us without touching the embryo the chances that that embryo has for implantation. One of our first viewers sent us a comment and at the same time a question. She wrote, I had an IVF cycle, 6 embryos were generated at that time. She would like to know what are the options that she has to select the best embryo for transferring and achieve the best success. This is Dr. Christian Perez, an infertility physician and surgeon. So the number one selection tool is called standard morphology assessment. Under the microscope, one of these microscopes here, the embryologists check the embryo and evaluate the structure and morphology of the embryo. It generates a grade, and we use that grade to decide what embryo to transfer. This procedure is subjective and will give us moderate chances for predicting embryo implantation. The advantage is non-invasive. We don't do anything to the embryo. That's number one. So the number two is something that we call time-lapse imaging. In time-lapse imaging, we perform an evaluation of both morphology of the embryo, a constant evaluation is continuous, morphology of the embryo, as well as the speed of embryo development during the 5 or 7 days of embryo development. That is achieved by placing a camera inside the incubator. So the embryo has imaging evaluation every 5 minutes most of the times. So that will give us a non-invasive evaluation of the embryo with high chance of predicting success. That's the number two. The number three procedure that we use in clinic is what we call PGT, which stands for pre-implantation genetic testing. The pre-implantation genetic testing has two branches. One, that is the testing that is invasive, in which we biopsy the embryo. We take a little portion of cells and we send that for genetic testing. And that is going to tell us what is the genetic composition of the embryo and the ploid of the embryo. Is the embryo euploid or aneuploid? The non-invasive PGT, what it does is it collects the DNA that was leaked from the embryo into the culture media. So we collect the culture media and do the genetic testing in the culture media, leaving the embryo alone. We don't touch the embryo for anything. It's non-invasive. The invasive one has very high chances of predicting implantation, and the non-invasive one has high chances of predicting implantation. Then the number four is what is being called these days AI time-lapse imaging. So in this approach, millions of data points generated after continuous evaluation of the embryo of both morphology and speed of development were entered into machine learning systems, and this generated an algorithm that evaluated all this information, tons and tons and tons of information, and generated an algorithm that is going to give us in a non-invasive manner. It's going to tell us without touching the embryo, it's going to tell us the chances that that embryo has for implantation. It has super good possibilities. The chances to determine embryo implantation are high also. And the number five is something that is coming along, is not ready for clinic yet. It's what we call the metabolic profiling of the embryo. With the metabolic profiling of the embryo, what we do is really evaluating the health of the embryo at any given point by determining the metabolic activity of the embryo that the embryo releases into the culture media. It's also non-invasive and it's super promising. It's not ready yet for prime time in the clinic. So we're not using that at this time, but the other ones, we are using it for evaluation. So sometimes we use them alone, sometimes we use them in combination. For instance, we can use standard morphology with time-lapse AI combined with genetic testing to try this. This is an effort to try to select the best embryo out of those 6 embryos, like the person that was asking us. Out of those 6 embryos, we want to pick the one that we know is going to attach and develop. So if you guys have any other question, please let us know. We will be happy to dive into any of these approaches. Again, this is Dr. Christian Perez, infertility physician and surgeon, and this is the FertiLink channel, your guide through the infertility journey.